Hello, fellow humans, and welcome back to Shitcoin Fundamentals. Today we go a little bit back to the beginnings of this channel, and today I have Tobias Ruck with me, and we will make an interview. We'll talk a little bit about cryptocurrencies and ecash and applications of cryptocurrencies. So welcome, Tobias. Maybe you can introduce yourself a little bit and talk a little bit about what you're doing, how you're connected to ecash, and yeah, a little bit about all of the other projects you're doing, bcash, RayPay, and so on.
Yes, RayPay. I'm Tobias Ruck. I work for ecash. I founded Lotus, the Lotus blockchain, and I I'm the CTO of RayPay, where we have a wallet on the App Store currently, which is being upgraded as we're speaking to the Chronic indexer, which I've developed, and maybe some people heard on Twitter. Yeah, I have been a long, let's say, veteran for electronic cash. Not as long as other people like Amaury, but I think my journey started in 2017 when Bitcoin Cash got launched, and I kind of finally understood what Bitcoin was about. Then I developed some smaller projects to mostly to get to understand the technology. So I started to build menu.cash, which is a thing where you can order with crypto from a table and pay immediately. So each table has its own unique QR code, and the payment contains the order, and then they can deliver it to you right away. I think it's pretty common in Japan. Then the other thing I built was slpdex.cash, where you can trade SLP tokens on chain. Problem there was it only was able to process buy orders, so it wasn't very user friendly. So yeah, then I discovered sender offline payments, and that means that's basically bcash, where you can sign a payment without having access to the internet. Right? You just have some offline data. You sign. It's like a check, more or less. You sign a check, and then the recipient can check the money. They can cash in the money. And that led to bcash, which is for smart cards. So you can make payments for tapping. The card is offline, but the payment is done on chain. Right? It's a plastic wallet, and very cool technology. I tried to get that going in Saipan, get an economy there going with NFC payments. Unfortunately, it didn't really solve a problem, and we'll get to that later, that all this technology is fun and fancy, but it's not really solving problems. And yeah, I'm interested to talk about that. Then after that, I basically switched over to RayPay, and first of all, we wanted to again in Saipan. So Rai is for the Rai stones, which are common in Micronesia, not common, they're the first blockchain, basically, more or less, in human history. And yeah, so we named our thing after that. And it's a wallet that is specifically engineered to be very easy to use in commerce. So we used it almost every day on Saipan to buy food and whatnot at restaurants. And that was really cool. We built a community around that. Then I switched over to Lotus and Stamchat, and I think that goes even farther back to the roots of crypto, namely, spam prevention and sending money to, kind of hash cash. If you heard of that, where it's you send an email, a message, or whatnot, and there's a small amount of proof of work attached, and in this case, it's crypto. So what we can do there is we can use that to like you can anonymize payments through atomizing the UTXO transfers, but you can also like rank order messages by importance, and yeah, and that's what I'm currently working on. Also doing some stuff for ecash, and also hosting a conference in Prague. We'll get to that later, but the domain is 2022.be.cash. Yeah, we maybe can put that in the description later. But yeah, so that's that's my entire person. Like there's nothing left. I covered everything.
Your CV is clear. Very good. No, yeah, what I actually want to talk about with you already showed a lot of experience, and exactly what I want to talk about. What I understand what you're doing is basically you work on the UX UI of cryptocurrency, right? This is what you do. This is where the user actually, I mean, let's define the user first of all. Many people think that the retail investors of cryptocurrencies are the users of the cryptocurrency. I guess you will agree that this is actually not true. This is the people who are actually will use it later, right? For payments, to go to the shop, buy something with it, or do whatever with it. So you're working on this. So the question is, as you have already some experience from the Saipan case, maybe we can talk a little bit about this. And I want to focus on one specific thing. Like you said it already, you use it to pay in the restaurant. However, I think this is only possible if most of the money that the restaurant is making is actually fiat currency, right? Because to provide you the food that you pay with your with cryptocurrency with, they have to pay suppliers on the other side as well, right? There's people who bring the food to, you know, bring the grain, make the grain for the flour that the noodles are made, and you know, like this kind of whole supply chain is connected to this. So basically, if we want to see in a future, in a hopefully not so far future, where cryptocurrency is really used as a means of payment in larger scale, basically all of that supply chain has to be solved, right? Everybody has to be able to pay offline, online, however. So the question is for you, what you did in Saipan, and what are your takeaways, and how you see evolving this? What could be made different? What could be improved?
Yes, so I think one big thing, and this is actually controversial in ecash a little bit, but one thing that we really focused on, that we almost put basically all of our energy in, was stablecoins. You know, the US dollar has the US has the US dollar, and it's just it has such a strong memetics that it's like basically impossible, or like it's very hard to get people to wrap their mind around using something other than stablecoins. Of course, we used ecash, we used the blockchain, but more as rails, and the actual value that was being transferred was a stable currency. We actually minted our own stable currency for that, RAI USD. Unfortunately, it's getting now harder and harder regulation wise, but there's also a solution to that. So yeah, and to get to the supplier thing, what we also built, but unfortunately didn't roll out, was a bill pay tool where you can basically off-ramp your crypto by making someone else pay bills for you. The problem there, unfortunately, was, well, so the idea is basically, say you're a restaurant and you get like, I don't know, 1,000 crypto, like 1,000 RAI USD. And then you're like, hey, what do I do with that? Well, you could give it to your customers, but, you know, then not your customers, you could give it to your employees, but then what do they do with that? But then what we thought is, why don't we create like a small little loop? So we pay at the restaurant with crypto, and then we get the crypto back by paying the bills for the restaurant, right? So we, and in America, everything is done with credit cards. So we actually make money from that by using a cashback credit card, right? And this way, we wanted to, you know, create a small little circular economy. The downside there is that actually turned out to be money servers business activity, because we were transferring money from one person to another, and technically that is 5 years in jail. So we kind of were like, that was a little too high of a price to pay for that. So yeah, one of the big things we had to really engineer around is that, okay, how do we do this with like either without being money service business activity, or by complying with like the money service business laws. We were like a little concerned that the UX will be too complicated to like do all the KYC and everything. But you know, maybe in the future we will pick that up again. But yeah, I think that would actually create a small little economy. It's not directly solving a problem, but the restaurants were always very like excited about crypto payments. So I think that in and of itself already is like a little bit of solving a problem, just like having this like novel kind of thing also, like a new kind of technology that nobody else is using. Yeah, and you know, we also thought about some like fun things like a raffle back, which is when you make a payment, like a small percentage of that goes into a raffle, and then at the end of the month or something, one person gets all the money in the raffle, and that way you kind of like incentivize people to use crypto. Yeah, I think that would, I mean, you know, one thing we struggled with was just that we had too many ideas and we wanted to execute on all of them. And I think the correct way to do it would be to like just create a proper startup which raises maybe not venture capital, but just capital in general, and then just hires like a bunch of people and has like a solid plan. And yeah, and we I mean, in our defense, we were like kind of exploring. We were like, okay, where do we go? It was almost more like a research project, and I think we learned a ton. So I'm like happy to share all of those ideas here. Also, other ideas we had were like, you know, gaming, but gaming in the meaning of like betting, sports betting, right? So you can like cockfighting actually was quite big in that area. So that would be one thing where, and also the Philippines community was quite big there. So that'd be something where you can do that thing. And also if you can tie into the Philippines economy, well, also cockfighting is quite big, you can actually solve two problems that are like kind of interlocked, which is sports betting. I mean, I don't know if you can call cockfighting sports betting, but whatever. Like, it's banned in the US for a reason. It's very, very gross, but you know, like if people like it, whatever, that thing. And then tie it into remittance, right? Because people need to transfer their money back to their families in the Philippines. Because the majority, not the majority, the largest group of people in Saipan were actually Philippines origin and on a visa there. So that I think would actually solve a problem. But again, it was like, you can see we had like this whole buffet of like problems that we could fix, and it was like, okay, which one is actually the biggest one? And then the one that is currently being solved, and I think like that was like the end of the learning process, like, okay, this is the problem that is the biggest one, is cannabis sales. So in Saipan, cannabis is totally legal, but it is federally illegal. So actually there's some federal land on Saipan, and people are like told to not smoke cannabis on there because it's illegal. But if you just not on federal land, it's fine, right? So America is a little complicated there. But if you want to buy cannabis in Saipan, you used to only be able to do that through cash. But you know, America isn't very cash heavy. Most people like to use credit cards and so forth. So well, I didn't do that, but you know, someone else in Saipan built that. And basically the idea is you you mint your own stablecoin, and for that you pay someone to give you a signature such that you can mint the stablecoin. That is not MSB, it's not MSB activity. And then you send the tokens over to the merchant, and then the merchant later can either use them in their own economy, or they can redeem them to back to US dollars.
Okay, so you talked now about different applications of cryptocurrencies and how they basically tie in an economy. And I think what you also said, what really also worked with me very well is the idea of having a startup, right? Because you may not know it. Actually, this channel I started on making interview with other startuppers, with other entrepreneurs, initially before I switched to crypto content. And there we had a lot of these discussions about focus, right? This is also for me sometimes difficult having a startup to focus on one thing, because there are 1,000 things which you could do, but then it's the question, what is worth doing? And sometimes it's really hard to find that. So then the question is, from your perspective, what makes in crypto something worth doing? What are problems that you see that are worth solving? I mean, the cannabis, I think, might be one, right? Because there's a lot of companies who cannot open bank accounts because, as you said, they're federally forbidden to do so. So there are some restriction on it, which theoretically crypto could be a workaround. Maybe. I don't know if it's legal or illegal then. I have no idea about that, but how do you see it? What are problems worth solving, and how to measure success in that case?
Yes, so I think the way to do that is to go back to the white paper, Bitcoin white paper. And basically what the white paper says is that Bitcoin solves the same problem that cash solves, but it also allows it to do over a communications channel. So what we have to do is find where is a problem that currently is either only really solvable by cash, or we're doing it like over the internet solves a big problem. Also, I think one thing that is kind of left out, but was very big in the very early era of Bitcoin, was micropayments, and like really small payments, even something like below a cent or something. I think this is, in my opinion, and I think I have the data to back that up, is that it's again either stuff that's very hard or illegal, or not illegal, like very, how do you say, like where just the banking system just doesn't want to do that, like cannabis payments, but also things that are in the same box.
Donations, for example, for specific causes, or things like that.
Things in that realm. Also maybe escort in some areas that might be
where you also not necessarily want that somebody knows that even though it's not illegal, you not necessarily want that somebody knows that you're using these.
Yeah, exactly. It might be not ideal for your reputation and so forth. Things like that. Then also I think gaming, sports betting, I think those are very interesting, because they're because if you can like circumvent some regulations by saying I'm not a house, right? I'm just like, this is just between two private people, and like I'm not doing the RNG, the RNG is done somewhere else, things like that, where you can like just by using the blockchain in such a way where you connect two people directly with each other without like an intermediary party, and then you don't fall into all of these like licensing laws, then I think that really solves a problem. And I think there's a lot there. and then also yeah, like micropayments and so forth. Like I think these for example Stamchat, right? Like that's what I'm building, is like everything you make is like a small little payment there. And I think that especially that requires something like ecash or Lotus in order to work at all.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, in the industry, there's also a lot of talk about IoT, Industry 4.0, stuff like this, where you will have to transmit small amounts of data, right, and reimburse for small amounts of data. So I'm pretty certain that cryptocurrencies or DLTs are definitely a huge application in this field as well. So
I'm a bit more skeptical on the IoT, because it seems that people are like just giving up the data for free, more or less. But maybe in the future, and who knows? Like the one thing that I kind of find interesting is helium. I don't know. I don't understand if it's like a total scam or like really genius. It's where you basically provide in some kind of real world infrastructure. I think it's Wi-Fi, but I'm not sure. And like through the device, they have like special devices that only like certified manufacturers can do. And basically you have to provide a Wi-Fi, but you get crypto in return. And I think this is something that could really create like decentralized, like actually decentralized internet infrastructure. So yeah, this is something I also see, but yeah, I'm like not an expert in that, but this is something that's really interesting.
I mean, I think this is anyways the problem a little bit of the crypto world, right? As you said, like you're not sure if this is genius or if it's just a scam, and I would unfortunately say that this is true for most of crypto projects out there, because it's really hard, right? Like for average person, it's really hard to understand what actually is like technologically interesting and where there's also use case. I mean, this is the most important. What we're also now discussing about it basically are what are the use cases, right? And I think when you look at like normal companies, startup world, or also normal companies, usually the valuation of the company comes from the utility. Right, you look at the market, you look how much better the solution of the company is than what is currently in the market size, how much of the market they can get, and then you can make a rough estimate what the worth of the technology is. Where in cryptocurrencies, we're still at the stage of basically making the market. There is not really a market. I mean, currently it's like 90% people that trade for financial gain cryptocurrencies, which is in my opinion not the essence of that, right? This will not work for very long. So the question is like how to get the utility right. And I think you are like super on that topic. That's why I think it's super interesting to get some more insights of the Saipan case, because I think this is like the closest what I have seen to like I mean it's small scale, right? It's like a small island.
It has to be.
Yeah, it has to be, right? It's maybe even not bad, because one of the things I said before is like the supply chain. And the supply chain is much more compact on an island, right? Because it's likely more self-sufficient than, I don't know, Germany, right? Germany buys stuff from different kind of countries, different kind of continents, where when you're on an island, you're usually more self-sufficient. So I think to get the supply chain right is much easier on the island than it is in, I don't know, Europe or US or wherever. So when you see like it's maybe a little bit painful to talk about this, but what you see are the main problems there. Like what would you make completely different if you would do it a second time in Saipan? What were the most important learnings, let's say, like that?
Well, first of all, I would be a naturally born American, because that is what I would have changed.
Harder to change, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that I didn't really have a say on that. No, so I think this was by far the biggest issue was the visa issues. I mean, those could have been solved, but first of all, it was all extremely slow and expensive, and it all takes away from capital that you can put to development. Yeah, so I think that was the biggest one. Well, doesn't really help with people, but I think what you need to do is like when you identify a place where to go, then really make sure that there's no like big barriers that you have to like work around. Then I think the second biggest one would be to spend much more time listening to people and their problems. Like we like to just build something and then try to find someone who has a problem that solves this. But no, we need to be humble and listen to people. Hey, like what are your problems? And maybe at some point you're like, oh, wait a second, your problem I can actually solve. I have the technology to solve that. And most problems you can't solve with crypto. I think that's what many people get wrong. Is no, crypto can solve any problem. I don't know, maybe I'm misrepresenting, but like you have to find, how do you say, like you have to find a problem where it's really, really painful that they have that problem, and where crypto solves it in an elegant way. And I think with the cannabis case that I mentioned previously, it's quite elegant because it's not MSB. It solves the exact problem that the customer has, and it solves the exact problem that the merchant has. And I'm really glad that is being done. So I think this is a good example of how to apply that there. So I think, yeah, those would be the biggest points. And also maybe I think you need, but I think we did that quite correctly. If you do a project like this, you need some buy-in from influential people. So you need to be like, if I were to do this again, every time I need to have someone who's like really big in that area, and have them as kind of like the someone to like get the thing going, like maybe to create excitement, but also maybe to like quote unquote force the solution in some other areas. So for example, if you have someone who is part of the supply chain, then you can be like, oh, I give you a discount if you use crypto, or vice versa, something like that, in order to kickstart a circular economy. Because if you do so, like if you do solve a problem there, and you also have someone who's like influential there, then you can really create a circular economy. And yeah, I think that'll be very important in the future, especially with and I don't know where this will go with central bank digital currencies. I think there will be a few people who will be left outside the system, and I think there might be some ways how we can solve very basic problems for people. Does that make sense?
That makes complete sense. That brings me also to another question that I had. I think this question actually you already like tried to address with Bcash a little bit, is that most of the world's cash transactions are not digital, right? Especially when we go to the, I mean, I don't know,
well,
but
cash by definition is not digital until we had Bitcoin, right?
Yeah. But what I mean is
most money transactions.
Yes, most money transactions, right, is still on coins and not digital coins, but real coins and paper money, right? And there are many areas of the world where this is just like that's how it is. It's the easiest way to exchange value. So the question is, I know that there's in Africa already a lot happening with digital payments or with like mobile phone-based payments, not smartphone, but like literally like mobile phone-based payments. Is there a solution that can be done with cryptocurrencies do you see, or is that really a solution that is already solved by coin and paper money?
So there was Cointext, where you could transfer through SMS. From there, obviously, is that you have to have support, or you have to trust the infrastructure that it won't delist you, which is always dangerous. Also through ecash, where only one party has to be online, because currently in crypto, both parties have to be online in order to make a payment. And through ecash, only one party has to be online. I recently discovered a protocol where 0 parties have to be online, which uses smart card technology. Unfortunately, you have to trust the issuer of the cards. So with Bcash, it's a completely open protocol. So like anyone can just kind of make their own smart card and tap into the protocol. With that fully offline protocol, I think I made a presentation on that 2 years ago or something.
I guess link below if you find it somewhere.
Yeah, I can link it. It's quite long and very, very technical, but
that's good maybe as addition to that.
Yeah. And yeah, by the way, I mentioned in the video, I mentioned the granularity problem. I have since solved that. The problem there is that, first of all, the UX is actually worse than Bcash. So you have more signatures that have to be transferred, so it's slower. But there might be some cases where all these constraints are actually, how do you say, don't matter. So where it's like, okay, it can be slow, that doesn't matter. It can be like, there can be some trusted issuer, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And also the fact that you don't need internet at all is the big constraint you need to solve. So I don't think right now there's a good place where that can be applied. Again, this was more like a research thing. Like, it's really, really cool that is actually possible. You can transfer crypto from one person to another by both parties being offline. Yeah, I think there eventually might be some use case where it's really, really useful. But I think, what I'm now focusing on is like just to make the current crypto experience really, really slick. Like when you transfer coins, it has to be the most simplest thing ever, which is why I'm working on Stamp Chat, because everybody understands a chat. And also when I send crypto over, like I wanted to, like when I use the Bitcoin.com wallet and use a Bitcoin Cash or something, I just have a linear list of transactions, which sometimes contain some information, but usually they just contain the amount of coins transferred and the timestamp. Whereas if I, like, for example, I send money to my friend, then it's ideal if that transaction is in our chat, if it is in our group, and then I can see where that money is. And I think this will greatly increase the user experience for crypto payments. Also, say I'm at a merchant and I scan the QR code and do a payment. What Stamp Chat then allows is that you stay in contact with the merchant, and then in theory they could be like, hey, this was a really cool purchase. Here's another thing you might buy. Obviously, they will have to pay for that, right? That is then called advertisement. But I think this solves a problem for the merchant, and maybe also for the customer who's like, oh, maybe they sent you over some coupons, right? Like some, like, hey, I give you a discount. You were a good customer, things like that. I think there would be a really good use case for that in some areas, which, like, we're still building the rails for that, and at some point we'll build the trains. Also, I think one big issue that I also want to tackle, but in the future, I mean, one big issue that I have is manpower, but I'm kind of solving that currently. One big thing that I'm building that I already have solved, but now I want to solve it in a different way, is recurrent payments. So Bcash already solved recurrent payments previously. Problem there was that it was like very crude, and it lacked privacy, like completely. Like it didn't have any privacy. Like it was all transparent, like your whole, like where the money will go and so forth. Now in the future with Stamchat, I want to solve that in a much more elegant and private way. And then that also opens the door for many things like subscriptions, and even micro subscriptions where you, like, for example, you subscribe to someone's like daily tweets or something, like in quote tweets.
Yeah.
Like they send you a message over some high value thing, and you send them over, I don't know, 5 cents or something for every message. But if he does that at scale, if he has like 10,000 people, then that's already like 100 for just a single message per day or something like that. So that might be and 10,000 subscribers, I don't think is a lot if you compare that to like Twitter or something. So that I think really solves a problem.
And this would mean then also like payments of bills potentially, right? I could, like, I don't know, the person who I rent the flat from could basically ask me to pay over that system reoccurringly, or I don't know, Netflix, exactly. YouTube, whatever, right?
Any kind of service. Because one thing I realized today is that recurrent payments over centralized servers enslave you, because like, for example, right now my Photoshop isn't working because my credit card has some issues because, transferring countries, and then they just also so happen to issue me a new card, and then they blocked it again because, I don't know, maybe they're incompetent or something. And now, for example, Photoshop that I have to pay recurrently is now in the process of being disabled. So like, if I need that for some work, but imagine you are cut out from the financial service.
Bills, right? Electricity, things like this.
Yeah, previously you would have just been able to, but I mean specifically all of this online stuff where like you only can pay through like financial services. I think you can still pay your rent in cash if you really want to. Like ideally, like most people want to be like, what, cash? But on if you are tied to your credit card or your PayPal or whatever, like now I experienced that, right? Where it's like, okay, things are failing again, but maybe, there's some, mechanism where some parts of society are cut out from the financial system. Then you have the problem that all of these recurrent payments, you really have to have a financial institution behind that. Whereas if you just like previously you would just buy Photoshop and then it would be yours, right? That would be the ownership thing. Now it's only a recurrent, and that's like the big topic that like everything is moving to, because people can't afford, I guess, to buy stuff once again, or like it amortizes much more money if you buy it recurrently, because people have a shorter time frame of thinking.
Coming from the startup world, it has also to do with getting finances for your endeavor, right? Because usually when you want to get investment into your company, any investment, they require recurring revenue, right?
So yes. So that is more like a layer, like a lower layer of problem that is being solved, right? If you have recurrent payments, then you can build something on top of that. Like maybe you want to build a streaming service or something, or maybe you want to build something else. And if you just make the API really simple and slick, then you get access to people who, like for me, this like Adobe, like they have a problem, I have a problem right now, and the problem is my credit card company, or like my bank who's issuing them. So I think that there might be potential in the future, like recurrent payments in general. They're like, crypto actually solves them quite neatly. I don't want to tell how, but there's a lot of ways how you can do that through a wallet. It's not that hard, and you don't have to be online at the time of payment. I mean, you have to be online sometime in the month, or maybe in the preceding months. But yeah, so that's the thing there. And yeah, I think that's most of it. Also, like just in general improve the wallet experience, like being able to connect people. Like say you have crypto, initially it won't be accepted at many places. You have to like have a map or something of like, okay, where can I spend that, where can I exchange that? Yeah, and
so basically there the idea would be really to have like a network of users that is connected not just through the payment, but through communication, potentially a map, interest groups, I don't know, people who like to eat pizza.
But also something like social media thing where like one thing I think is very big that, I mean, and at this point it kind of stops being a wallet and just being a completely different thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I'm thinking about just doing as a proper startup, is to do a social media app where you post things, but you also can like when you post it costs tokens, and when you upvote or downvote it also costs tokens. And when you want to message someone, it costs tokens, and those go to the recipient. And that way you create really high value interactions. Like say, like when I post something on Twitter, I get likes, but I don't know, like, is this like a valuable like, or is this like a not valuable like? Yep. But when I get the notification, oh, this person, they upvoted your content by, I don't know, 100 Lotus or whatever, then okay, 100 Lotus isn't a lot, but like, I don't know, like 1 million Lotus or something, that really is a lot. Then, you know, oh, wow, this person really, really appreciated that, that post. And you send a costly signal. Yeah. And I think that will be very important for certain kinds of areas.
Now I have I think a question for you that I asked myself already for a while. It is, so you run different kind of crypto projects, right? You're involved in different kind of, you have started a different kind of, and I think it's currently the main value of crypto projects is to speculation, right? The main value that is generated in ecash, in Bitcoin Cash, in whatever it is, Ethereum, is mainly speculation. Is not utility, right? So it's easy to get caught up in, like, you know, pat yourself on the back and say like, wow, our coin doubled or 10x or whatever. But obviously you build something for the other side, right? For the user. So how do you, you know, like work with that feedback, right? Because it might be different feedback. Your coin might go up, but your project on the other side with a customer, you might realize like, okay, like there's no, you know, nobody really uses it, but it doesn't have really effect on the value of the coin. So how do you deal yourself with this, basically understanding, basically disconnecting these two things?
Oh, it's very hard, especially like, for example, like I have people who invest in some coins, and then they ask me like, why doesn't it go up? Like it goes down, therefore the coin is bad, right? And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not how it works. Like this is just like market fluctuations and people who like misallocated their funds. Like why would this, why would someone who doesn't know where to put their money and then has to pull it out, change the value of the technology itself? So that is, for me, that's quite frustrating. It's very hard to keep that out. Also, I mean, you know, like the way you have to structure a crypto is that often like the, you know, speculation, you can't avoid it, and it's like the driving factor behind crypto. So for example, ecash, now they have two things that are very high on their priority list. One of them is staking rewards for Avalanche users, and the other one is pre-consensus. So for me, as a wallet developer, pre-consensus is like it's incredibly valuable. Like it could so many cool things. Like you could do atomic swaps, cross-chain, like you name it. Like there's so many really, really, really good things that can be built from that. Staking rewards, like I can't really do anything with that. I mean, maybe I can integrate it into the wallet or something, but it's kind of like a self referential problem. Also, it kind of invites the devil, obviously, because then you you reward people who already have coins with more coins, and you can like it centralizes kind of, but you know that's a different topic. But obviously they have to make the choice. The pre-consensus is for utility for the coin itself, but staking rewards is for speculation. And currently most people in ecash are all speculators, and they want the price of the coin to go up. And like for me, actually, if I use a stable coin, I actually want like the price to be just stable. I want to be able to plan how much is a transaction. Like I want to be able to know, okay, this transaction costs like currently it's quite cheap, like it costs like 1/10 of a cent or something. So like something that you can run numbers with. But yeah, I don't think it's very good that this focus is on speculation, and maybe we can game that somehow. Maybe we can align the incentives of utility and like speculation. Maybe you can speculate on utility or something. I don't know how that would work, and not just on like this vicious cycle of, oh, if everybody speculates on that, then it goes up, and then more people speculate on that, and it just creates these wild swings. But if you could instead be like, okay, hey, I don't know, you can buy the utility, and if the utility doesn't come, it goes down, and if the utility does come, it goes up, and maybe it can be like partially centralized or something. I don't know, maybe you can do something like that, and like kind of harmonize the two things. But currently they're like, I think, relatively disconnected.
In my opinion, actually, at some point, this will just naturally happen, right? Because to some extent, right, there are people who like the tech, and this is currently the speculator. This is not like the classical people who invest in like really like conservative investments. I don't know, stocks or maybe there's some overlap, but it's basically a new generation of investors who's in crypto, right? And it's not just people who are after the technology, but also who want to make fast money. On the other hand, if there's no utility, at some point the game is over, right? Because you stack people until there are no people anymore who can invest, and then they will not rise anymore, and then everybody will lose interest, and then the prices will fall, and then the whole bubble will collapse, right? So I think at some point, and I have actually the feeling that currently we are at some point, right, where you see that the market is not that easily hyped anymore that it was like 3 or 4 years ago. So I think utility will become naturally more and more important, because then the question is like, what makes the value of the underlying asset that I'm buying there? And this is, I think, a very, very important question. Maybe also to you, what do you think is the underlying value of an asset? How you can measure that? Like what is, how you would you see, when you're a classical company, maybe to phrase it different, when you're a classical company, you can value the benefit, the utility that you have by just looking at the market, right? In crypto, it's still a little bit more disconnected from that, because there is no underlying market currently, or very little underlying market. So the question is, like, when you look at value of crypto in like 5-10 years, what would be for you like the main drivers? What do you think is the thing that will drive actually the value of cryptocurrencies?
Well, it is one kind of person, and it's the kind of person who has no other option than to use crypto, right? So it will be not believers, right? It will not be, it's like, oh, I'm a believer in this cryptocurrency and whatnot. It will be people who are kind of forced to use the thing because there's no better option available. And we need to find these people, and we need to solve their problems. And then that will actually drive the stable usage. So that will create the basis for users of the crypto token, of a cryptocurrency. Yeah.
Okay, I think this was
very concise.
yeah, I think this was also the perfect ending words for our discussion. I think this was a very good discussion. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot today, and I hope also the viewers did. Um, do you have anything else to announce, to talk about? You said about the event in Prague that you have planned. Maybe you can tell a little bit more about that, and then we.
Yes, so it's now live, the website. The website is 2022.be.cash. So ecash, the domain, we're running that. It will be in Prague in the Grand Majestic Hotel on the 26th to the 28th of August. So if you are near that, it will be, how do you say? Like Amaury will be there. So like a few of the ecash developers will be there. Maybe Anthony can make it there. It's will be great. Vinamani he won't be there because he will be in Saipan, but he'll make a presentation. Also, the president of the Mises Institute of Germany, he'll make a presentation in English. About central bank digital currencies, which are kind of like the biggest competition to crypto. So we have to be aware of that. And so that will be interesting to see the discussion there. My plan is to make a bunch of workshops where you can actually like try out the technology. I'll bring all the tech I've discussed here. You'll be able to try it out. Fingers crossed, you know how tech works. Sometimes it doesn't work, but that's the idea.
If the demo gods are
aligned, well, and maybe everything fails, but that would be something to learn from too. No, like we'll make sure it works. And also like you will be able to connect with like-minded people, and I think this will be quite big. Yeah. So hopefully you know my Twitter already. It's Tobias Ruck, TOBIASRUCK.
or just check the description down below. I will drop everything there, also the webpage.
Yeah. And we just started the Twitter for the conference. It's ecash conference, I think, and all together. Also, if you want to learn more about Stamp, it's t.me/stampchat altogether. And if you want to learn more about Lotus, it's givelotus.org. If you want to learn more about ecash, it's e.cash, but you should know that already. And
this my viewers should know by now.
So this is, have you heard of ecash?
I mean, maybe I'm getting a lot of new viewers.
This was actually a question I asked a lot in Davos in Switzerland. It was like, so I'm working for ecash. Have you heard of ecash? But yeah, so that's that's the thing. I'm very excited about it, and hope to see you all in Prague. There's only 150 slots available, and after that, it's full. Yeah, so it's already running. You can get the tickets. I signed all the contracts, so there's no going back. It's all
another question: can you pay with ecash?
Well, you can't pay with ecash for the conference, but yeah, we're looking into it. Like we have to prioritize things, and unfortunately the hotel currently doesn't take ecash as payments.
Oh yeah, the hotel, that's the problem.
Yeah, but maybe next year we will be able to do that. But yeah, I really wanted to have ecash support, but then we just were like, okay, we have like so many things to add. We have like speakers, we have logistics, we have all the tech. So it's like, okay, let me just focus on the things that are really important. Good so point. Yeah, I think, but what I really want to do is that you can pay for like drinks or something with ecash. And I think that will be way more fun than some forum on the internet where you can like actually do that. But let's see, like it's a very big task. Worst case, we all just get together, have talks, and it's really good fun, and that doesn't really sound that bad. Like I'm really excited for that.
So sounds amazing. You will find all of the links in the description down below, so check them out. Yeah, it was a real pleasure to have you, Tobias. I hope we can repeat that at some point, because I hope there will be much more to talk about the implementation and utility of ecash and other cryptocurrencies in the near future. So I'm looking forward to that. Thanks, Tobias.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.